Welcome to the People Sports Podcast. She is Charlotte Wilder. I am Mark Titus, and I am very happy to announce to the people, Charlotte, that we are both now officially double vaxxed.
Woo! Hell yeah, baby! That double vax live. I'm so psyched.
The reason I bring it up is not to be not to getting vaccinated. I will say the first time I went, the first shot I got, like it felt like a life event, and you're like, whoa, this is crazy. Like this pandemic.
I cried.
The second one, I was like, the second one felt like an errand. It was like, okay, let's just get it out. Let's just get this over with. So I'm not bringing it up because, like, obviously a lot of people are getting vaccinated. The novelty's kind of worn off if you're like, hey, everybody, I'm vaccinated.
No, it's still an exciting thing, though.
Half of the country. The reason I bring it up, and that's relevant to what we were doing today, is that I got my vaccine like an hour ago. So if over the course of this show...
Okay, so if you start...
start getting loopy...
What shot did you get? Did you get Moderna or Pfizer?
I got Moderna.
Yeah, you might start to feel like shit pretty soon.
If I start feeling it, I don't know. We're gonna watch this unravel in real time. I just wanted to let the people know that if we get a little, I mean, I guess like the structure of this show is such that that's invited already.
Yeah.
Like it's already baked into the show.
I love it. That's why I think I feel like most people's reactions if their podcast partner was like, hey, I might get a fever like halfway through this, would be like, this is a problem. And I'm like, oh, this is perfect. If I fall out of my chair during the middle of the show, just keep going, Charlotte. Just power through. I think we'll be all right. Don't worry about it. Well, it's funny because I got the second dose and then had to write about, I got it fairly early and had to write about the bracket, filling out my bracket. And I wrote that absolutely batshit insane article about choosing.
Which one?
Team. I mean,
which one? You got to be more specific.
You're like all of them. No, the one where I like chose Arkansas because I like got weirdly attached to it, and like Oklahoma because I like the musical.
Yeah.
Really stupid stuff. And the reason it was as stupid as it was is because halfway through writing it, I really started hallucinating, and I filed it. I filed it to our editors, and I was like, I mean, I don't know, but I'm gonna go sleep. And then I woke up and they'd published it, and I was like, oh my god. So this is your version of it. If you're not making content when you're in a vaccine haze, are you even a sports media person?
Here's my fear now, Charlotte. What if I have the podcast of my life? What if I go out here and I have a 60-point triple-double of podcasting, and then I feel like I'm addicted to vaccine? Like I'm going to have to get the before we do every show, I'm going to have to give myself the vaccine.
Well, then you'll either be super immune or dead in like 3 weeks, so we'll find out.
Well, this is my PED. I need it. I need Moderna. I need more Moderna.
I think there are other ways to give yourself a fever before you start going to get it. So, we'll figure that out.
All right. So what are we starting with today? I'm going to answer that question for you. We're going to start with this because another big announcement. Not only am I double vaxxed, between when you heard from me last, which I believe we record on Monday, our little email reading. Yeah. Between then and today, I have a very, very big announcement, and it is this.
Oh my God.
I no longer believe that Babe Ruth murdered his wife.
Wait, okay.
I have flipped back. I have flipped, and then now I have flopped. I've flopped back. I read a dissenting opinion.
But yesterday in our planning meeting, you told me he definitely did murder his wife.
That's why I told you I flipped, but now I've flopped.
Okay.
I am back to...
Walk me through this.
Okay, it depends on what I could very easily flip flop back. Like it just depends on what source you put in front of me at the time. I was so certain that he had by the time I had read enough about this, I was like, this is a fact. This is a stone cold fact that this happened. Probably the same websites you were. I don't know. I was doing. It was a lot of confirmation bias where I was like, give me stuff that says Babe Ruth set his house on fire to kill his wife.
Okay.
And I found a lot, and I was like, all right, this happened. And then somewhere along the line, I realized what was going on, and that it just was confirmation bias, and that I was just finding what I was trying to seek out. And I was like, I got to a point where I was like, this so obviously happened. Why is this not more well known? I have to see the other side of this. I have to understand why this isn't the first thing people bring up.
You weren't like a QAnon guy, were you? Just want to get that out of the way.
So I found this website, Q, and Q told me that So I was like, all right, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna forget that I read all this. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna now do the exact opposite, where I'm gonna try to search for information that says he definitely did not. I'm gonna go into this with like a frame of mind of like, he definitely. I am now. I'm his defense lawyer. You know, like I was the prosecution. Now let me play the role of the defense lawyer. And I found a lot of compelling evidence that he didn't, which is basically like he was a womanizer and he had been a womanizer his whole life. So he had no reason to really like get his wife out of the picture. He was like, I don't respect you anyway. I'm going to sleep with who I want to sleep with. You're not going to stop me. I don't think he needed to.
She could exist as his wife and it would not impede his lifestyle at all. So why would he kill her?
Right, exactly. Also, they were last seen in public like 2 years before she died, so like it wasn't like the timeline didn't add up. Like
what about the money thing?
They had been separated for a long time. The money, what money?
When she came to him, she wanted like the equivalent of today's $1.5 million, and he said,
"That's not good enough. That's not enough for me because she was living in another man's house." But by all accounts, the arrangement they had to me seemed perfect. Like for Babe Ruth, like Babe Ruth would have looked at arrangement and been like, "This is perfect. This is exactly what I need."
Yeah,
it's like you don't live with me. And I can have whatever women I want.
You live in Watertown, Massachusetts.
Yes,
and I'm in New York City with supermodels.
Yes.
Like this is fine.
Yes. So I don't think Babe Ruth is like, you know what I should do to shake up this arrangement is kill my wife. I don't think as he was in between home runs, he was like, you know what I should do. We got an off day tomorrow, right? Yeah, I should swing up to Watertown. Yeah, I don't think. So anyway,
okay, I'm glad to hear that.
That's where I've arrived.
I'm glad to hear that because I also don't think Babe Ruth killed his wife. Because I had the same reaction. I was like, it is too. That would have been even if he hadn't, but it were a better conspiracy theory. It would have been out there way more than it is.
Right.
Like we had one website from 2019 with weird font. That is not enough to go on.
That's not enough to go on.
No.
Also, another piece of evidence that isn't really ironclad, but just like I kick around in my brain a little bit, is that I feel like people just kind of died from stuff like that back in the day.
Constantly.
Like you just kind of like suspicious circumstances were not suspicious back in the day. If that makes any sense whatsoever. You're like, this doesn't look right, but it is 1846, so I guess. And then you just kind of like if you're
not playing baseball. No, I know what you mean though. Like houses caught on fire all the time. Like
you're like a house
women
caught on
died
fire
at
like
31. That. If you were a woman and you made it to the age I am now, like you were crushing it before 1950.
Right. And I think that like that's not to say that accidents don't happen today. Houses do catch on fire. We know this. Tragedies happen. I'm not saying, but like the very first thought, if a house like explodes, is that it was arson because it was like insurance fraud, right?
Right.
Like this happens every so often. You hear of like the people like try to burn their house down for insurance money. Like that is the very first thought that investigators have is like, I don't think that was the first thought they had back in the day when like stuff burned down. I think they were like,
I don't either. I think it was like, oh man, another shitty house. Like people need to learn how to make these fireproof, but we've only got wood. So I think, I buy that.
Yeah. So I don't think it's that suspicious, even though by modern standards, like if a man, like if God forbid, knock on wood, like Mike Trout's, I'm not even going to put it out there. Never mind.
Don't put it out there.
I'm not even going to say it.
I also do know, though.
I'm not going to say it.
Just for the record, I know a lot about Mike Trout's wife and their dog.
I'm sure you do.
From Instagram. So anyway.
We are not going to talk about that on this show, though. Other things we are not going to talk about as we hone in on something that you do want to talk about. I personally do not want to talk about Tim Tebow trying to be a tight end for the Jacksonville Jaguars like 12 years after everyone told Tim Tebow the only way you could stay in the NFL is if you switch to tight end. And he was like, I will absolutely under no circumstances do that. And then Urban Meyer, his college coach, gets a head job in the NFL and is like, Tim, I want you to play tight end. He said, done. Say no more.
I could not
I'm 33, but done.
I have absolutely no interest in talking about this. I think Tim Tebow finally being a tight end now, it's just like rude. Do you know what I mean? It's
it is, yeah.
Like, don't you play baseball now? Like, are you on a Mets minor league farm system still? Like, I mean, pick a lane, man. And by pick a lane, I mean, I guess his lane has become switching lanes, but that's not a lane.
Yeah, pick a lane, but also get out of all of the lanes. Also, just get off the road.
Like, he was doing fine as a broadcaster, Like, sports media was great for Tim Tebow. Like, I think that should have been his lane, because now it's just kind of pathetic.
Tim, if you grow up and get old and you look back on your life and you're like, man, I was never like an all-star at the major level of whatever of a sport, that's okay. That's okay.
Right. And
No
it's
one
not
is looking.
gonna happen now.
You won the Heisman. You won national titles. Like it's okay to reach a point, where sometimes it happens to all of us. Every single one of us that play sports, we get to a point where we realize it's over. We suck.
Yeah.
It's time to hang it up.
Totally.
And Tim Tebow, I guess that's my frustration, is that he just seems motivated just to like be great at something, and in sports, and it's like you don't have to be. No one. Where's this coming from, Tim? You don't have to play baseball, or like he's gonna get cut from the Jaguars, and then you're gonna look up and he's gonna be on like the bobsled team. He feels like he's gonna be trying to win an Olympic gold medal doing bobsled or something. You're like, Tim, just please, for the love of God, it's okay. It's okay.
Yes. Here are two things I'll say to that. One, thinking Tim Tebow's name is Tim. Like, did you ever think about that? Like, when people talk, they're like, "Hey, Tim." I've never in my life thought it. Like, he is so Tim Tebow. Like,
it's all together. You have to say both names.
Like, there's Tim Tebow. There's Paul Wall. There's Martha Stewart. Like, there are people who you can't call by anything but their full name. And Tim Tebow's, like, if I ever met him, I'd be like, "What's up, Tim Tebow?" And he'd be like,
Yeah.
And the second
true.
thing I'll say is that, exactly to your point, he's a god in Florida. Like, I was in Gainesville in 2019, and I don't think you can walk like 30 feet without having a bronze statue of Tim Tebow pop up and be like, "I won the Heisman." Like, we get it.
Yeah.
So, like, ride that out. If I had something to ride out from college, do you think I'd be trying anymore? Like,
yes.
I'm kidding. I would be. Also, something. This is wow, just completely unrelated to what we were talking. But we're not going to talk about Tim Tebow. So
Yeah, we're not going to.
Let's not talk about that.
Let's just move on.
Something I do want to talk about is that I want the people to go to our YouTube page, which is YouTube/ I don't know. Google
Probably
YouTube,
.com in there. There's probably a .com, I would guess.
maybe a backslash.
Probably a slash of some sort.
Google, okay, it's the name of the show. So just YouTube, the People Sports Podcast. Like, you'll find it. You're all smart. You're probably smarter than we are. Anyway, I
like
want
to
you
think
to.
there's like one person listening that's like 78 years old that loves our
Writing
show.
down the-
She's like, damn it, that's not enough information. I don't know how to. I want to watch the YouTube, but you're not giving me enough.
Now we'll never find it. Okay, well, I want the people to go to the YouTube and see how Mark and I match, because Mark, you are the summer version of frat guy, and I'm the winter version of frat guy, and I just want the people to see that. Also, it made me think of the pictures we took when I was in LA, and we look like buddy cop Miami Vice comedy from like the 90s. Our Babe Ruth is our case. Like, we're trying to crack the case of whether Babe Ruth killed his wife. And everyone's like, he didn't. And we're like, however,
we should that should be our podcast, a true crime podcast. Where we're breaking
none
down.
of them happened.
Yeah, none of them happened. That's the conclusion that we reach on episode 49 of our podcast, on season 1, episode 49. Each podcast is 2.5 hours long.
Oh my God, we just choose. It's like a deep conspiracy theory from the depths. It's like Derek Jeter once stole a pair of shoes from the Uptown Nike store, and we're like, did he do it? And the conclusion is like, nope.
But we come to the conclusion that he didn't do it, and then the final thing we say is, but that doesn't sit well with me. Like, we can't accept it. And we're like, but I don't know. I still just don't. That doesn't sit well with me.
And then the mailbag episode is everybody writing in, and we're like, see here, it's like confirming our biases.
And it just never goes away. Like, the story just kind of never.
The only show we ever do is, did Derek Jeter steal a pair of shoes?
And then inevitably,
and did Babe Ruth kill his wife?
Inevitably, like 2 or 3 people write in and they're like, you guys are morons. This was already solved. This, and this. And we just like delete those emails. We're like, get out of your show.
Right. We're like, that also doesn't sit right with me. No. Is there anything else you don't want to talk about?
Yeah, I don't know if we didn't want to talk about this last week, but I can't remember what the timeline was, but I definitely don't want to talk about it this week. Floyd Mayweather and Logan Paul is a go.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, they're fighting on June 6th in Miami. They're going to have a boxing match. I can't remember how much we didn't want to talk about it.
I don't think we wanted to talk about it at all, and I still don't think we wanted to.
Yeah,
I can't think of a worse. The only thing did I say this last time? I don't know. I'm like losing my mind, Mark.
I don't know because we didn't talk about it last time.
Right,
So
we didn't talk about it. So I'll just
remember.
say this quickly so that I don't have to not say it again, which is that the only thing worse than, what is it, Jake Paul and Floyd Mayweather?
It's
Is Logan Paul. It's Logan Paul?
It's
Okay,
Logan
then the only
Paul.
thing worse
Logan.
is Jake Paul. And then I think the Pauls need to fight each other. And if someone with the last name Paul loses, they both have to go away forever.
Okay, so I see. Okay, I see. You put you. I see what you're doing there. Yeah,
It's a lot of wordplay.
But someone with the Paul last name would win.
Yeah, but
So
that
I
doesn't
feel like
matter
that
'cause someone
guy
would lose.
But that guy wouldn't go away forever. The loser.
It'd be
yeah,
so embarrassing if your brother loses a
that's
fight.
true. That's true. I think the Klitschko brothers
It's
should
like
just
it's
challenge.
exactly.
Should challenge the Paul brothers, and that's the only way we can end this. That's the only way we can end the Paul boxing saga. Is just the Klitschkos come out and they're like, "Well, how about we fight you both like a tag team boxing, the first ever tag team boxing match."
Into
Let's
it.
put-
Just put him in a
Let's go.
WWE ring, honestly, and like make it real. Like there's no storyline. It's just like a UFC fight in a WWE setting.
And there's no referee, there's no
None.
judge, there's no police to there's no just
No,
let them
and
go
they
wild.
and they don't
Just
even
beat
put
the
it on
hell out of them.
TV. Like you can't watch it.
One other thing I don't want to talk about is this headline, which definitely caught my attention, but I don't know if there's enough meat on this bone.
Well, help me with
The
it.
headline reads this: Greyhound tests positive for meth after winning dog race.
Oh no! Oh my god! I'm gonna have to go find the meth addicted greyhound and adopt it, Mark.
So
There's literally not enough meat on that bone. They're very skinny dogs.
I don't. Yeah, they're. I don't understand what the problem is. Like if like the meth isn't getting in the way of this greyhound, having success in its life, who are we to stop him from, like?
That's
He's
so
still a
awful.
winner.
Can you imagine giving meth to a dog? If you're like, hey
I know.
Moses, smoke this.
I know.
I mean, I don't even know. Do you smoke meth? I'm gonna be honest. I don't know how you ingest it. I never really watched Breaking Bad, but it seems like a way to do
By
it.
the way, you say that like you're putting me in a spot where I'm like, do I talk about like
know.
what I know about meth or not? Like where's the
Do I
sweet spot
tell
where it's like,
Charlotte how to do meth?
where's the
do
sweet
I-
spot where it's like I'm knowledgeable but I don't know too much? I don't.
That's up to you to decide.
I've seen
buddy.
Breaking
I'm
Bad.
along
I'll
for
put
the
it that
ride.
way. I've seen Breaking Bad. I'll put it
I'm
that
just
way.
waiting for the Moderna to kick in, and you really let me tell another story about whippets. Yeah, I don't want to talk about that.
I don't want to
but
talk
I
about it
do-
either. It's sad. It's sad.
I want to get a
Go.
dog.
What kind of dog would you get?
I would get a German Shepherd.
That's probably good, right? What's the drawback? Are German Shepherds like mean? They can be, right? But you
No,
just have to
they-
train. But they're not that mean.
No,
that's just if you train them
they're
to be. But
neurotic. So as someone who's neurotic, I know how to train them very well. I grew up with German Shepherds. I would know how to deal with it.
Oh,
The
okay.
drawback is that I travel, so like that would be mean to the dog. So I can't really get a dog. But I want a dog.
well, what are you saying about me? I travel too, and I have a dog.
I know, but you figured out how to make it work. Like I would be
Yeah.
starting out new with a puppy, trying to figure
Yeah,
out how to
that's
make
the
it work.
problem.
That's very
I-
different.
Yeah, by the time I moved to LA and like got a smaller place and don't have the big yard for Mose to run around or anything, he's a little older, so it's not as like
You didn't bring a dog into this world
Yeah.
in a one-bedroom apartment, knowing you're traveling all over the country all the time.
When I gave birth
That's
to
the difference.
Moses, when I gave birth to Moses,
Yes.
we had a big house in the suburbs in Ohio with the yard and everything. Yes.
Exactly. I don't have that. I can't give that to my child yet.
German Shepherd would be nice. I like German Shepherds. I feel like that's the only other dog I'd get other than a golden or a lab or something like
German
that.
Shepherds are the best. You got to train them well, but I'm really good at training dogs. So I did
Yeah.
I recently was
Super
just
smart, right? Like they're the smartest.
too smart, actually.
Yeah.
That's the dog that I gave a grape to this summer. My parents' dog, Echo. That I
Oh,
love
that's
very
right. You
much.
tried to kill. You loved it so much. You tried to kill it. That's
Yeah,
right.
I love her so much.
Yeah.
I gave her a grape and then Googled it.
Mike Conley,
Yeah.
a guy who I said was my favorite teammate ever when you put me on the spot.
Who's also been crushing it this year.
Also been great. All-star, Oscar winner.
love
He has a German Shepherd, and his father, like breeds German Shepherd, trains him. I don't know. I've known his father over half my life. Like
Yeah.
we grew up playing AAU together. I went to Mike's house all the time.
Yeah.
And one time I was at as we were adults, I was at Mike's house in Ohio,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm playing with this dog Rio, and we're having a good time or whatever. And then I just said like something about how Rio's so well trained, and he's like, yeah, like that's of course he is. And I was like, what do you mean of course? He's like, well, my dad. I mean, like Like, I got them from my dad. And I was like, well, what does that mean? He's like, you didn't know my dad did? And I was like, what?
Are you
It like blew
serious?
my mind. I was like,
That's
yeah.
such a big thing not to know that one of your best
Yeah.
friend's dad does.
Yeah, and I was so stunned, and then I start like texting mutual friends, and I'm like, "Did you know Mike's dad?" Like, and they're like, "What are you?" And I was expecting like Mike to be the idiot, and like that he doesn't tell anybody or something.
Right.
No, I was the idiot that I didn't
And then
know.
everyone
so,
else was like, also, just to get out ahead of this, nobody else thinks that a reflex test is when you kick your leg. So just want you to know that.
So yeah. Anyway, you could. Yeah,
Do you think there's
you
any
could-
chance that Mike Conley's dad would want to come on the podcast and talk about German Shepherd training?
You know what we should do is you should get your German Shepherd from Mike Conley's dad. Like if he's still breeding German Shepherds.
I mean, done
and
and
training
done.
them, boom, done. Full synergy, show
Wow.
synergy, bring him on. We do like a tryout. He like brings out like his 7 German Shepherds that he has, and you
I'll
get to pick which
go.
one.
Where does his family live? Are they still in Indiana?
They're not. I believe he's in Arkansas now. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll
his dad's
go
from-
there. That could be
yeah.
a great video segment for the People Sports Podcast. I'm just saying. Dogs are sports. The Westminster Dog Show is on Fox Sports. Like, I think there's a lot of material to work with.
There we
here.
go.
Okay. All right. Well,
That's settled.
we've done such like good tangents already today.
I told you this Moderna is my PED. I think it's like giving me superpowers.
Yeah,
to-
and I'm drinking this like weird green tea matcha oat milk latte, which is definitely laced with something. 'Cause it said like hemp was in it, so.
I want to say this to you because I know you want to say this, but if you say it, it's going to look bad. It's going to be bad optics coming from you. So I will be the one to say it.
Thank you,
will
Mark.
do
I
you a
know
favor.
that this is really kind of you.
I think I do want to talk about Aaron Rodgers and
Yes!
Shailene Woodley, and we're going to do that this week. I think now's the time. I think Aaron has gone to such lengths that we cannot ignore this anymore. It must be addressed. Is Aaron Rodgers beefing with the Packers? Depending on who you talk to, there's not a lot there. This is like, have we heard from Aaron himself, by the way? Is Aaron like putting out statements that we have?
No. Not in statements, but in leaked text messages.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, has Aaron himself like gone on Pat McAfee's show and said no? He hasn't. So
Aaron,
because I
come
think
on the People Sports Podcast.
I think Aaron loves what's happening here. Just watching everyone kind of have their take on what's going on, and some people think that. He's crazy, and I'll let you explain some of the newer developments. But I think Aaron loves this. I think he's just sitting in a chair somewhere in a dark room with his fingers tinted, just like going like this over and over, rocking back and forth.
1,000%, Mark. My Aaron Rodgers theory, which I am now just realizing is something that I have held for a long time, and I am only just now realizing how to verbalize it, is that Aaron Rodgers is an agent of chaos. Aaron Rodgers lives to sow mystery and discord. There's all the stuff with his family. All of a sudden, he's hosting Jeopardy. He suddenly drops in an NFL Honors Zoom video that he's engaged, and then we find out it's to Shailene Woodley. And the reason we have to talk about, I'm just so excited. I'm a little overwhelmed. The reason we do have to talk about him this week is because this isn't just like some Charlotte is obsessed with another athlete's relationship situation. This is like things are actually going down. Aaron Rodgers is allegedly telling people that he does not want to go back to Green Bay. And
Not that he doesn't want to.
No, that he won't.
straight up will not.
That he straight up will
Yeah,
not. Which,
yes.
in case anyone is wondering what happens if you just start not showing up to stuff. If you don't show up to minicamp, which is in June, Article 42B of the collective bargaining agreement says unexcused failure to report or unexcused departure from mandatory off-season minicamp carries a maximum fine of $15,515 for the first missed day, $31,030 for the second missed day, and $46,540 for the third missed day. A player who misses all 3 days would be fined a total of $93,000. So to Aaron Rodgers, that's probably not a lot of money, but like $100,000 isn't not a lot of money. So there are actual stakes here, and I think that sort of keeps building as you just refuse to show up, right? Like he's under contract. I looked up Aaron Rodgers' contract, which is he's under contract till 2023 with no more guaranteed money on the deal, and I have no idea what that means.
That means that the Packers could, like, if
Did they pay him everything already?
No, I mean, like guaranteed money is like if something happens and you can't, I don't know, like if you get hurt or something, or if they cut you, they still have to pay you or whatever else, you know?
So like, okay, so right, so those incentives
So,
aren't there for him.
yeah, like there's money
And
where
I
it's,
bring
yeah.
that to you because you're the one who said that cap space is invented by the media, which is a conspiracy theory that I fully believe because I don't understand it.
Yes, it is. Cap space is definitely, yeah, the salary
If
cap.
someone can actually explain cap space, I don't trust them.
That's the cap. The salary cap does not exist, especially in the NBA, because then they introduced the NBA really like took it to the next level with like the luxury tax and like the NBA. Every single franchise is over the salary cap. It feels like, and if that's
Yeah.
the case, then how is it a salary cap? I don't understand that part. But
Also, like, I don't get it.
what kind of cap? You can't put a cap on something and then go over the cap. That doesn't
Right, then
work.
it's
That's
not a
not
cap.
how. What kind of jar are we dealing with here? That's not a like.
Your jam is overflowing at that point.
Yes. You need a
Your
new.
NBA
You need a new
jam is
jar.
Sorry.
I caught it.
Okay. Anyway, so basically, for those who don't know, Rodgers is saying he's not going to go back. This apparently stems to when the Packers in the 2020 draft took quarterback Jordan Love in the first round, which is sending some kind of message. Aaron Rodgers hates the general manager, apparently, Brian Gutekunst. It's
Yep, you did good. You did good. That was right. Yep.
That's a tough one to say.
Steve Buscemi's cousin, I believe.
All right. Relax, Titus. So apparently he feels that this is all, let's call him Brian, general manager Brian, because I can't say his last name. Aaron Rodgers feels like this is all general manager Brian's fault. And the only way that he would maybe consider going back is if they got rid of general manager Brian, which probably isn't going to happen. And apparently there are these text messages that are leaking that, we'll get into the text because I would love to really dissect this with you. But basically, that's the gist of it,
Yeah.
as far as I can tell.
And I guess like our job as media people, we're supposed to pick a side and decide whether we're like team Aaron Rodgers or team Packer. It's I don't even know if it's like Packers. It's just like, is Aaron Rodgers justified in this seemingly erratic behavior? I mean, like, I don't know if erratic would be but it is, like I said, he could very easily like squash this if he wanted to, or like,
Yeah.
or at least put his own version of the truth out there. He could very easily say like, some of it's true, some of it's not. Like, here's where I stand on this. But he is just kind of, as you said, he's an agent of chaos. He's kind of just like
He's fanning
good
flames.
living. He's just sitting in the shadow and letting everyone else fan the flames for him almost.
Exactly.
And it's created a weird situation where, like the reports coming out are that Aaron Rodgers will 100% under no circumstances put on a Green Bay Packers uniform ever again the rest of his life, where the Packers are saying like we are 100% under no circumstances trading him and he's under contract. So something's going to have to give there.
What do you think? I want your take.
What do you mean? Like what do I think about
do
what?
you
Like
think
is
he's justified?
Rodgers? I think he's justified. Yeah, I think I think if you're Aaron Rodgers, I think there are a handful of guys in sports that come along and there's there's no sense in listing them because we're starting to get into GOAT argument territories.
No, we don't do that.
And we don't want to do that on this show. But I do think that every so often, guys come along that are worth the headache, or
Yep.
however you want to phrase it. That like they are transcendent talents. And to the outside world, they might be divas or whatever, but in my view, what makes like at the professional level, it is the athletes that make the franchises go. As much as the Packers infrastructure does not want to believe that's what's interesting to me. Is I feel like if Aaron Rodgers was the quarterback of the Colts, if Aaron Rodgers was the quarterback of say the Vikings. Say, like, I don't know, basically any other franchise except for like 7 in the NFL that doesn't believe that they are like one of God's chosen franchises and we are bigger than everything else. I don't think this is an issue because I think the franchise would placate him. They'd be like, Aaron, whatever you want. Like, we understand how good you are. If you want us to fire, you name who you want out of here. We'll line them up and get them out of here today. You
Right.
say the word, Aaron, whatever you need. And I feel like the Packers think that they are bigger than Aaron Rodgers, and I guess they have a right to think that because the Packers are a storied franchise long after Aaron Rodgers is done in Green Bay. The Packers fans and the Packers organization believes that they will still be winning Super Bowls. They won Super Bowls before him. They believe they'll win after him. I understand their point of view, but for me, I think Aaron Rodgers is justified. I think that, like, yeah, just the fact that if this was, I think he's a transcendent talent, and he is the type of guy that you do anything to please. And I don't know. I guess they see it differently. I guess that's why they're running their football franchise. But
well, I think
know.
I totally agree with you, and I think where the Packers are wrong is that I don't get the sense that Packers fans aren't on Aaron's side. I think Packers fans are sort of like, you guys did this to him.
Yeah,
like, it's one thing if an athlete is, being, quote, a diva or demanding after not doing anything, but he's been there for 16 years. Is that right?
Yes.
No? And
yes.
he has won one Super Bowl. And he keeps getting kind of screwed over by coaches. And he is a kind of talent that if you're Green Bay and you want to keep that storied franchise legacy going, you could win another Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers.
Yes.
You could win
Yes.
maybe several with Aaron Rodgers. And I think that you're shooting yourself in the foot and tarnishing your legacy if you're saying we're bigger than Aaron Rodgers right now, because Jordan Love isn't going to get you there in the first year.
Yes.
He's not, it's going to be seen as a failure that Aaron Rodgers only won one Super Bowl, and it's going to be your fault.
Right. And I guess that's a good point too. You mentioning like coaches cycling through, and there is no, as much as like the Packers infrastructure exists in our mind in the sense that like it is a storied franchise, Vince Lombardi and Bart Starr and Brett Favre and others.
Yeah, and other guys who played there.
And Jason Lambeau, I think was his name. Was it Jason? Am I getting that right? Was it Kyle? Kyle Lambeau, that's right. Jason was his brother. Jason was the younger brother that did meat packing. Kyle Lambeau is the football. That's right. Where was I? As much as in your mind when you hear the Packers, you do think of like this infrastructure, this football infrastructure, this machine that will continue down this path of greatness. The present day Packers aren't that. This isn't like the Bill Belichick Tom Brady feud, if you want to call it that. Was such that like the Patriots let Tom Brady walk, but in Patriots' mind, they're like, Tom Brady didn't win us these Super Bowls. Bill Belichick, even Robert Kraft probably has a big enough ego to think that like I played a part in this, whatever.
Yeah.
Like that the same sort of nucleus was in New England and then you take Brady out, that's a huge part, but there's still like pieces there that like created the success where like Belichick and Kraft are getting together saying like, we won these Super Bowls together. We don't need Tom. Who do the Packers have if not Aaron Rodgers? No. Like what exists in Green Bay if you take away Aaron Rodgers in terms of like, that is the one thing we can lean on and say like that is success. It doesn't really
like
exist.
Third year coach Matt LaFleur.
Yes. And that's what's crazy to me. And that's why like I bring up like other franchises as examples is like Pat Mahomes at Kansas City is a great example. The Chiefs as a franchise were garbage forever. And they know that. Chiefs fans have been awesome. That's not the stadium has been awesome.
Yeah.
Joe Montana made him good for like 2 years. But as a franchise, the Chiefs were irrelevant. Chiefs fans know this. They were like, we were downtrodden. We never win anything. Now Patrick Mahomes is there. Fast forward 10 years of Patrick Mahomes is in Aaron Rodgers' shoes, and he's like, hey, I don't feel like you guys are doing enough for me. I've only won one Super Bowl here. I'm a transcendent talent. I'm one of the greatest to ever do this. Here's a list of things I would like. I don't think it would be ridiculous for Kansas City to be like, all right, we'll listen to you. And I think that's the biggest issue is because if you look at like who the Packers have drafted since the last 10 years, since 2011, they have drafted one offensive player in the first round, Charlotte. That one offensive player was the guy who is going to be their new quarterback, probably Jordan Love. Yeah. And you could say, so the counter to that could be, well, Aaron Rodgers, the Packers offense has been pretty good. Like Aaron Rodgers has shown that he doesn't need much more help. So like, why would the Packers?
But like, what if you gotten it for him?
What if you had gotten it for him? I don't know what the answer is because I do understand that if they draft, like if every draft they're drafting wide receivers, running backs, whatever. Which by the way, not only since 2011, since the Packers drafted Aaron Rodgers in the first round, they've used 2 first round picks on offensive players at all, and they were both offensive tackles. They've drafted 0 skill positions for this man.
They haven't gone out and been like, Aaron, we're gonna get you a shiny new weapon.
Yes. And I guess you could argue that if they did do that, if they got Aaron a bunch of shiny new weapons, then Aaron would just complain that the defense sucks. And why is it that like I can put 50 points on the board every game, but we're still losing games because you guys aren't doing anything about the defense? I understand that. I think what the issue is, if I'm reading the tea leaves correctly, is that you're not talking to Aaron Rodgers at all.
Yes.
Like, you're not asking him at all what he wants, which isn't like Aaron Rodgers is not the GM. You don't have to do exactly what he wants, but maybe just ask him. Maybe just like, I don't know, not draft a quarterback without talking to him first. That's
the
what I would
reports
say.
I've seen is that Aaron Rodgers was mostly angry because nobody told him any of this. And
Yes.
there was a great quote where I didn't realize this, what Brett Favre said when they drafted Rodgers. He said, "My contract doesn't say I have to get Aaron Rodgers ready to play. Now, hopefully he watches me and gets something from that." Which is hilarious because he's like, basically, screw this guy. And Aaron was like, I'm
Yes.
not going to do that to Jordan Love. Like, this isn't his fault. Like, that sucks. Imagine getting drafted in the first round as a quarterback and you're like, oh shit. But like, what about Aaron Rodgers? Like,
Yes.
I wouldn't want that situation. And
Yes.
it's funny because now Favre is texting Rodgers, apparently. And Rodgers wrote back, like, thanks for thinking of me, or like, thanks for checking in. And apparently there have also been text leaking where Aaron Rodgers in group chats has been comparing GM Brian to Jerry Krause, the guy who blew up the 96, in fairness, built it, but also blew up the 96 Bulls. And so right now, I mean, if I were Aaron Rodgers, I'm not sure I'd send a single text, or I'd send them all with like disappearing ink. And then I was thinking that, I was like, this would get screenshotted everywhere. But then I was like, that's what he wants. He's an agent of chaos.
It is what he wants.
He's
Yeah.
tossing these little texts out there to just be like, everybody has always cared so much about what he is and what he says because he says so little and he's such an
Yes.
enigma that it's like, great.
He's. What if he's the one who leaked the text? Because these are in the story is that these texts are from a group chat, so that means like one of his friends is narking on him, or
No. I bet he paid. I bet not paid. I bet he told David Bakhtiari, who's like the guy who, he's always been around Rodgers. He's
Yeah.
always been around Rodgers. He like hangs out with them. I bet he was like, hey man, leak these for me. That's
Yes.
my conspiracy theory.
Yes, yeah. The most likely source of these text messages to me is Aaron Rodgers.
100%.
Yeah. Yes. All right. I'm glad we're on the
Hands
same
down.
page there. So I guess big picture, if I have to boil it down to who do I side with,
Yeah.
I think I might have to sign with Aaron Rodgers, but like the way he's going about it, like but who am I to say? Like I wouldn't do it this way, but also it is kind of funny. I don't know. It is kind of funny to like drop the bombshell.
I think it's hilarious.
Hilarious.
And I think he thinks it's funny.
Last year on draft night, he gets the bombshell dropped on him. So this year on draft night, he drops a bombshell on the Packers.
I didn't even put that together.
I think
my
that's
God.
funny. I side with Aaron Rodgers. I guess I'm just gonna dive right in and say it.
I do
side with
too,
Aaron
and,
Rodgers. Yeah.
and part of this is because I was sort of pissed at them for keeping Mike McCarthy around for as long as they did because he clearly couldn't figure out how to coach. Like, Rodgers has been transcendent despite his coaching staff.
Yes.
I think is what it comes down to. And I've been thinking a lot about like, where does leadership come from? Because as you were saying, I think something that kind of gets overlooked is like, you can't win a game if you don't have players good enough to win the game. Like, you could have Bill Belichick. No, listen, like, people
I
act
know
as
what you
though
mean.
like,
I know what you mean, yeah.
People are like, oh, well, it's the Packers. And it's like, because the Packers are the people
Yeah.
are the team. It's like,
The
there
logo's
isn't-
not going to win a game. You can't like,
There's not like an entity. Like, sure, our podcast is sentient on the internet, but like, if we don't talk on it, this doesn't exist. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yes.
Like, I think that people forget that, and I think that once you have a veteran in the locker room who is as athletically skilled, but also becomes a leader by default, whether he's like a silent stoic leader or someone who's giving pump up speeches, like, people look to this guy. So you're just sowing. The Packers are sowing chaos in their own locker room by even having this be an issue. And it's just like, just give him what he wants. Like, clearly this
yeah.
GM guy isn't very good. I mean, like, why protect GM Brian? Like, I don't know.
the argument to being on Aaron Rodgers' side with this is that this man has won one Super Bowl. Tom Brady has won how many now? 7?
Yeah.
Is it 7?
Yeah.
I've literally lost count. I don't
It's a
even
little
remember anymore.
gross. Like, I'm a Pats
7?
fan, and it's like a little gross.
Aaron Rodgers has won one Super Bowl. Tom Brady has won 7. And granted, almost everybody would say that Tom Brady is the GOAT. But the fact that Aaron Rodgers gets mentioned
Yeah.
as like there's an argument that could be made that Aaron Rodgers is the greatest quarterback of all, like the most talented. Like people always throw the qualifiers, like well, he's the most talented. The point is, Charlotte, the fact that this is even like brought up by anybody, and he's won one Super Bowl. Speaks to he's won as many Super Bowls as Trent Dilfer. Speaks to like the situation around him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That like in
He's won
spite
as many
of
Super Bowls as John Gruden.
yeah, that like you would think that it's basically like everyone has decided that that Aaron Rodgers is making as best the best lemonade he could possibly make out of the lemons that he has been given, and that lemonade is one Super Bowl.
And I think 16 years is way too long to drink shitty lemonade.
I think so too. So the Packers, you did this to yourself. I'm sorry to say, but if Aaron Rodgers, like I said, I don't think you do this for every athlete. I don't think that if I don't know. I think if Matt Stafford, when he was with the Lions, I think like if Matt Stafford was making demands, I don't think the Lions need to necessarily be like, all right, Matt, whatever you want.
Right? They're like, okay, fine, we'll get Jared Goff.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers is not that. You know what I mean? Like Aaron Rodgers is upper echelon. Tier it how you want, rank him how you want. He's
also
at the very top. And if that guy isn't worth like doing whatever it takes to make him happy, then good luck to you moving forward, Green Bay.
Right. He's also like super famous. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there are quarterbacks and there are athletes where like I don't think any of my friends who don't really follow sports would know who, you know, like even Phillip Rivers to a certain extent.
That's a good one. Yeah.
But I think everybody knows who Aaron Rodgers is.
Yes.
And he has transcended, we're using this word a lot. It's like the new unprecedented. But like he really has gotten over the athlete level to the point where he is a true sort of worldwide celebrity, I think. And I think that makes this a little more confusing because people are like, wait, even like casual sports fans or people who don't follow sports at all are like, Aaron Rodgers leaving Green Bay? What? Like that is the kind of reaction we're getting.
Yes.
So have I ever told you my Aaron Rodgers at the Kentucky Derby story, by the way?
No,
I can't remember if I've told this on this podcast or not.
I don't think I've heard it. No, so obviously not, unless I wasn't here for it.
Well, I'll make it really quick. This is partly why I have this like weird obsession with Aaron Rodgers, is because the first big story in sports that I ever like traveled or like wrote over, I think it was like a 5,000 word story, and it was on the Kentucky Derby, and it was just sort of like an overview of the weekend, and I was like, I think there's something here, blah, blah, like whatever. It's still it's like the first good thing I ever wrote, and still one of the things that I'm actually proud of. But part of it was I went to the Barnstable Brown party the night before the Super Bowl. I mean, Jesus Christ, the night before the Kentucky Derby, which is where the best way I could describe this party is it's like going to, it's like taking acid and falling into the pages of an Us Weekly mashed up with like Fox Sports NFL Sunday. Like it is really, it is trippy. You look like I bumped into Jay Gruden and I was like, oh, sorry. And he was like, that's all right. And I was like, oh, like, how are you feeling about this season? He was like, I don't want to talk about it. And I was like,
what season?
And they're so like, they're like so caught off guard, and it's not, media usually isn't there, and so I like dressed up, and I may or may not have taken my media badge off and like just walked through to the the velvet like VIP area, and up there Aaron Rodgers is there, Tom Brady is there, like Bodie Miller is weirdly there, like a bunch of the Packers and the Pats, like random famous people, and I was just like standing around, and I'm by myself because I'm reporting on this, and like everybody's drunk, and I have like a fake drink in my hand, and I see Aaron Rodgers standing on the edge of the stage, not stage, but like riser area, and like a bunch of the Packers, like Randall Cobb and David Bakhtiari, and like a bunch of, they're just hanging out, and Rodgers is standing by himself, probably 10 feet away from everybody else around him, watching Travis Tritt play the guitar on stage, just mesmerized by this random country star. And I was like,
hang on, random,
but random. In the context,
okay, all right,
that's not a name. Right. You wouldn't think I'd be like, maybe not random.
Maybe I know what you mean. You probably have to be Travis a country Tritt? Music fan. Okay. Yeah, all right, go ahead. Sorry.
So Rogers is standing there watching, and no one's around him, and he's like this for a few minutes. So I just go up to him, and I was like, "Hey, Aaron," and he's like, "Hey," and I was like, "You like this guy?" And he looks at Travis Tritt on stage. He goes, "He was tying one on today at the races," and I was like, "Oh, really?" And he's like, "Yeah, he was just hammered," and I was like, "Oh my goodness, all right," and I was like. It's pretty cool, that he can play that well drunk. And Rogers looks at me and he's like, I mean, all musicians can play well drunk. Like, that's the point. And I was like, can you play football drunk? And he looks at me and that's when he's like, I'm sorry, who are you? And I had to be like, I'm a reporter and I'm writing this story and about the Kentucky Derby. And at that point, like the other Packers come over and David Bakhtiari, this huge guy, he's like, what are you like? Are you trying to quote him or something? I was like, I'm really not trying to. Yeah, I was like, I am not trying. And he was like, all right, well, I'll tell you this. My brother. Oh no, it was David Bakhtiari's brother. He was like, my brother protects him on the field. I protect him off of it. And I was like, all right, dude, I'm not like, I'm like a smallish woman. I don't really know what you think of. And then Tom Brady's chair just like collapsed spontaneously out from under him and he fell to the ground and everybody freaked out and I was laughing uncontrollably. And Julian Edelman like shows up really drunk and I was like, hey, Julian, because I just done a story with him. And he was like, oh my God, hey. And I was like, how are you? And he was like, he like takes a bottle of Dasani, chugs it, slams it down on the table and goes, I'm so drunk. And I was like, and that was like a 30 minutes of my life that sometimes I think about. And I'm like, that was bizarre. And so the next year at some Super Bowl thing, Aaron Rodgers was at the same place that I was. And I went up to him the people I was with were like, don't do it. And I was like, I'm doing it. And I was like, hey, Aaron, saw you last year at the Derby, just wanted to say hi. And this guy he was with was like, he won't remember, or he was like, oh, the only reason he'd remember you is because of your hat or something. And Aaron Rodgers looks at him and then looks at me and he goes, she wasn't wearing a hat. And I wasn't wearing a hat. And I was like, my dude. So whenever Aaron Rodgers comes up, I'm like, at one point in Aaron Rodgers' life, he knew I existed, and now maybe he'll know that I'm obsessed with his new relationship.
Let's clip this and send it to him. And can you imagine if Aaron Rodgers came on our podcast?
I mean, I'll try it. Be like, look,
you know what the funniest part is?
We go way back to 2016, man.
The funniest part to me is that weirdly I could see him coming on our show, not because we matter whatsoever,
but because we don't.
But because we don't. Let's you know what I mean? I could see Aaron Rodgers being like, that is the perfect show for me to go on to be an agent of chaos and just come on.
What if we start if Rodgers comes on, we're like, what do you want to do? And or we could even be like, look, man, we won't even talk about football with you.
Yeah. Yes.
We will do an entire show with you,
Let's talk about
Aaron.
Travis Tritt.
Done. He also told me that Ben Harper once sent him a guitar, and that's how he learned to play guitar. It's really... Anyway, sorry that was a long story, but it's
that was great.
One of the only good ones I have.
We got it. When we do our investigative crime podcast, I need you to pause when Aaron Rodgers, when they come running up to you. We would cut from that part, and then we play some music and be like... And that always struck me as odd. What was he hiding? What was he? Yeah, that's right.
Oh, that's so good, Mark. Yes,
his tone changed. I wonder why. What does he know about Babe Ruth's wife? And what is he not telling us?
Oh my God, we should have Aaron Rodgers on to talk about Babe
Ruth's wife. That's it. He comes on the show. We ask him he comes on the show tomorrow. We do not talk about the Packers situation at all. We're just like, Aaron, did Babe Ruth kill his wife? We got to talk about that.
Well, and he's like, I'm sorry, did Babe Ruth kill his wife?
So Aaron Rodgers drama is kind of the story in sports right now. Another story that kind of popped up briefly, we were maybe going to talk about it, but I guess we don't need to really, is LeBron trying to get LeBron trying to get a guy in the NBA office fired. He doesn't even know who it is, but his quote was like, whoever came up with that shit needs to be fired. He was talking about the play-in tournament, quote unquote, the tournament, which is not really a tournament, but I guess what else would you call it?
Playing games.
Playing game. Yeah. I understand what the system is, but it's really hard. If I was to explain to our listeners how they were going to determine the last two seeds, I don't think there's a single person that would track what I'm saying. So
no, it makes no sense. Don't even bother.
But LeBron, basically, if you're a top 6 seed in your conference, you automatically are in. You're locked in. Those are your spots. 7 through 10 are fighting in this play-in quote unquote tournament. And the Lakers, would you look at that, are in 6th place right now. They're 1 game up on the Blazers with 7 games to play. They played the Blazers on Friday. LeBron, like there's a chance that the Lakers are going to fall down into the play-in zone. Basically, and
so
have to play
play-in
this
zone
play-in
is
game.
where 10 plays 7 and 8 plays 9 for the last 2 spots.
Seven.
What is it? To explain this to me.
I'll explain it. It's just like very confusing. 7 plays 8.
Okay.
The winner of that is the 7 seed. It's done.
Right. And then 10 plays
9 plays 10.
Yeah.
The loser of that is out. And then whoever
Are you
won
kidding
that,
me?
yeah, whoever won 9 versus 10 plays whoever lost 7 versus 8, and the winner of that is the 8 seed.
Oh, right. That's how they did it in the bubble, right?
No, that's not. This is the first time they're doing it. I don't know why they're doing it.
Well, this is so absurdly
stupid.
confusing. Like,
Well, so
this
you're
is
on LeBron's side.
The NBA.
You're on LeBron's side. They should fire. Should it cost a man his job who came up with this idea, Charlotte?
Yeah,
His
because the
livelihood?
NBA does such stupid shit. The NBA is like, hey, hear me out. Let's do a lottery, and we're going to use ping pong balls, and the lottery is going to determine the lottery.
The
But then
lottery
we'll
determines the
actually
draft,
pick.
and then
it's
the
like-
draft. The draft, you're picking the order of where you want to draft the lottery ball. They
And
should
it's
just like
ping
keep
pong
going.
balls, and that's important. And you're like, who came up with this? Like, there's got to be a simpler. The NBA would like, if the NBA was trying to go to the store, and the store is down the street, the NBA would go like 2 blocks to the left,
Mm-hmm.
1 block up, 3 blocks over, 1 block back to their house, and
Call
then
an
walk
Uber.
to the store. Yeah,
Call an Uber somewhere along the line. Jump
find
on
a
a
bird
subway.
scooter, download the app, and like.
Yeah. So are you on LeBron's side here?
Well, no, I don't
you
think
would
he
like-
I don't think the guy should be fired. Whose name, by the way, is Evan Wash.
Oh, really? We
because-
know his name.
Yeah, he got called out, and his
Does he have children? I just picture like a new version of A Christmas Carol, where like this guy's kid is Tiny Tim and like LeBron is Scrooge, and he's like, "You, please, sir,
He's like, my family.
I'm starving, please."
No. Well, I don't know if he has
Fired
kids
my
or not,
father because of an idea.
but Evan Wash, he's probably like our age, and we probably know people went to college with him. Do you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, that's the
Yeah.
vibe I'm getting. His formal title is Executive Vice President of Basketball Strategy and Analytics. So it's already like, you lost me at Executive Vice President. And he says, obviously, we welcome feedback from our players and teams. He said on Tuesday in a text message to Ben Golliver in the Washington Post. But on balance, we believe the play-in tournament offers more benefits than downsides. So he's basically like,
There you go.
F you, LeBron. We're doing it.
I thought he was gonna be like, to be honest with you, everyone was just going around the room throwing out ideas, and I said that as a joke, and so like, I don't know why.
He was like, they like that
It's my
idea better
job.
than a game of horse, so we went with it.
Yeah.
You know, like. So I don't know that I don't think I'm on LeBron's side, but I also do think it's sort of a silly.
It's unnecessarily convoluted, but at the same
It is
time,
fun.
it is like I'm interested. I'm gonna
It's
be
kind of
watching.
chaos.
Yeah.
I'm kind of on the Aaron
It
Rodgers
shakes it up a
chaos
little
train.
bit. It shakes it
Yeah.
up. It just shakes
Yeah.
it. I don't know what it does, but you just kind of sometimes just shake it. It reminds me of like my mom would sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of like a random summer morning, Charlotte,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd come downstairs and all the furniture in my living room's rearranged. And when you ask my mom like what's going on, she's like, just time for a change. Just time to. She just moved the TV. Like we had like a setup that made a lot of sense, and she just like make no sense whatsoever. But it made sense. Does that make sense?
Your mother is a real hero of mine.
She'd just be like, let's throw the TV over there and move the couch. And I'm like, but we bought that couch to specifically go on that wall, like, because it fits that wall. And she's like, whatever.
Your point?
Just wanted to change it up.
The other day, I
That's what I feel
completely
like the NBA is doing.
rearranged every shelf. I was just like, I don't want these things here anymore. So I moved them around. All the things are still the same, but I just shuffled them. So I guess I'm not on LeBron's side. I guess I'm on Evan Wash's side.
Well, that brings us to what I really want to do, which is rank our list. We like to do lists on
Yep.
the show of our top 5 what have yous and whatnots and what you call it. I think that's the official name of the
Thingamabobs.
segment.
How are
It's
you
the-
feeling? How's that Moderna?
I'm hanging in there, believe it or not.
Are you doing all
but
right?
I feel like it's just adrenaline, and as soon as the light goes out, the light's gonna metaphorically go out as well.
Yeah, great. Okay.
So Athletes complain a lot.
Yeah.
This is something we know. Aaron Rodgers complaining, LeBron James complaining. This is as I get older, I notice more and more that I'm an old man, that like these damn athletes complaining. And I thought, instead of doing what I do on the show a lot, which is complain about athletes complaining, what if we, because these are two instances with Aaron Rodgers and LeBron James that were kind of sort of on their side.
We see their point.
We see their point. What if we did our list, our top 5 times that athletes complained, and we supported them 100%.
I love
Whereas
it.
like you're not a spoiled rich millionaire athlete. Like, shut the hell up. We weren't yelling shut up and dribble. We were
Right.
like, no, continue to talk.
We were like,
you have my
stop
full support.
dribbling.
Yes.
Here's the
and
mic.
talk. Yes. We support your complaining 100%. So that's what we're gonna do. That's how we're gonna end the show, right?
Yes,
Our
but
top
before
5.
we get into that, I just
Okay.
want to say that while I was doing some research, because I felt like there were a bunch of times that I have been on athlete side, but I couldn't quite place it, and I wanted to be sure I wasn't missing the one that I was thinking of subconsciously, I came across an article on blogs.usafootball.com that the headline is 3 ways to deal with young athletes who complain. And I'm not going to read it.
Ground them. Take away their juice box after practice.
The first is seek to understand athletes who complain. 2, discuss options. 3, tune out repeat offenses. So it's basically like the boy who cried wolf, but in a blog post.
Number 3, draft a quarterback in the first round to replace them.
Right. Beautiful.
All right, so our top 5 athletes complaining, where you were on their side. Charlotte,
Yep.
I will give you the floor. Number
right.
5 for you.
I'm starting with a curveball. Mine is Aisha Curry. Aisha Curry? How do you say her name?
Aisha.
Aisha
Yeah.
Curry versus the NBA. And this is because one of my favorite tweets of all time was when, during the 2016, was it finals?
Yep, NBA Finals in
When
Cleveland.
for the first time Steph Curry was ejected because he lost his cool at an ump and he threw his mouth guard. His wife,
Hit a
Aisha,
woman, right? Like, hit a kind of Novak Djokovic situation where it was like he didn't mean to hit her, but like just threw it and like hit somebody.
Yeah, which is also gross because it's like spit.
Yeah.
I'd rather get hit by
Yeah.
tennis. Well, no, I wouldn't. But anyway, so she tweets it, and this is a tweet I think about at least once a week, and I think I've said this before on the podcast. I've lost all respect. Sorry, this is absolutely rigged for money. ... or ratings. In not sure. It's supposed to be I'm not sure which. I won't be silent. Just saw it live. Sorry. Aisha Curry on Twitter, and then she deleted it. And
Which is very ironic because she said I won't be silenced. And
Which
then
is
deleted her tweet.
perfect. And then the dark part of the story is that she said that her dad was racially profiled and was almost
Yeah.
arrested. So like she was like, I was on edge basically, which I get, but I am on her side because so often, how many times have you been watching an NBA game and a ref makes a last second decision
Of course.
and you're like, Adam Silver, you're like, there it is. It's absolutely rigged for money. And so I just love that she tweeted it, and I wish she hadn't deleted it.
Yeah, I don't think she was. I don't think there was any controversy here. I think the problem wasn't what Aisha said; it was that she said it. It was like
Exactly.
she tweeted it. Everyone's like, "Yeah, duh, Aisha. Is this
Like,
the first? Is this the first season you've been watching the NBA?" Like, oh my god, what?
But the way she said it, it's poetry. I've lost all respect. Like, you could do this as like spoken word. I've lost all respect. Sorry.
It's a great. I wish you wouldn't delete it because it's a great it's an evergreen thing. You could just quote tweet and add your own
Yes.
thoughts and be like, my reaction when Chipotle says they're out of Tonitos or something.
Exactly. I've lost all respect.
I've lost all
Sorry.
respect.
This is
This is
absolutely
rigged.
rigged for money.
Yeah. Which, like, again, I've made this point before on the show, and I think I blew your mind with it, which is that the NBA, it would be irresponsible of the NBA to not rig their league for money and ratings.
That was a recent take, and you
I
did
think
blow my
it is
mind, and I loved it.
I think they are in a business. This is a business. This is not. They are not seeking to have a competitively fair
This
enterprise.
isn't youth sports.
No, they are trying to make money. They are trying to get ratings. That's all that matters to them, and that's all that ultimately should. If you're thinking of it ethically, like
Yeah.
that. I guess not ethically.
Wow. Well,
No.
we took a
ethically would
little
be the
bit of a
word.
left turn there, but I liked where you
anyway.
were going with it.
Not ethically, but what am I saying? Like that's their fiscal responsibility.
capitalism
certainly.
works.
Capitalism, yeah, the capitalism, baby.
I once had
The day Aisha Curry learned about capitalism.
welcome. Anyway, so that's my first one.
That's a good one. I like that. That's a good start.
Thanks.
My number 5 is pretty recent. This is I want to do one recent one because Rodgers and LeBron, and it's just kind of the current iteration of athlete that we're thinking about complaining. Mine is Blake Snell and before the 2020 MLB season saying that he was not going to play if he was not paid. Like he was basically the reason this one has my attention is that because there are a lot of players that complain about this, Charlotte. So the backstory is that as we know, the pandemic was the problem to starting the baseball season. MLB seemed to have figured out the pandemic, but there was another hiccup that like delayed the whole season, which is that like trying to figure out what to do with the money. And then there was almost a situation where it was like, all right, we figured out like what the bubble, quote unquote, would look like, which is not really a bubble at all.
Right. That worked well. Justin Turner.
But yeah. That's actually exactly what Justin Turner did when he was interviewed. He's like, it's me. And he started coughing.
So happy to be here.
But they didn't figure out what to do with the money. Like, how are you going to prorate contracts, all that kind of stuff. The players were fine with prorating contracts. So instead of 162 games, take whatever fraction of the games we're playing, pay us that much money of that fraction of our salaries. The owners tried to not do that. What they tried to do was do like a revenue split because they were they were upset that there weren't going to be fans in the stands and they weren't going to make money from selling beer and hot dogs, I guess. And long story short, like that had never happened in MLB. So like the players were like, we don't do revenue split. This is a dangerous precedent. Right. You do that, you're going to have to introduce a salary cap. We don't believe in the salary cap because we know that it's not a real thing. We don't want the salary cap in MLB.
Because Mark Titus said it wasn't real.
So a lot of the players were against this. Ultimately, the players like quote unquote won. Like they got their prorated salaries. But the reason Blake Snell had my attention, I want to specifically call him out or not call him out, support him. Yeah, shout him out. Is that he made his statement on Twitch while playing a video game. And his quote was like the quote that got him in hot water was that he said, "Y'all got to understand, for me to take a pay cut is not happening because the risk is through the roof. It's a shorter season and less pay." And then this is the part that is exciting. "Bro, I've got to get my money. I'm not playing unless I get mine. That's just the way it is for me. I'm sorry if you guys think differently, but if the risk is higher and the amount of money I'm making is way lower, why would I think I'm doing that? I'm sorry." What? And that was his quote.
Like, have you ever heard more sound logic in your life?
It's so good. But I think like the establishment, if you want to call them that, the old heads, the old school, the sports writers, the uncles that just sit on the sofa and complain about the athletes complaining, saw this man say, "Bro, I've got to get my money. I'm not playing unless I get mine." And it was like, I hate that guy.
Right. They were like, he is the antithesis of baseball.
Yeah. Where's the love of the game? Where's all that? But I support Blake Snell because I think in general you should always support players versus owners when it comes to money, because like you think the player, you're like, why are these millionaires complaining? And it's like, well, because the billionaires are complaining. So like,
and it's wild that fans often side with the owners as though they think that because America is so fair, there's a chance in hell that they'll pull themselves up by their bootstraps and become the next Jerry Jones.
The billionaire. I'm going to be, when I'm a billionaire, I want to be able to.
Like, not to get political, but I'm like, I would settle for universal health care because I'm never going to get there. So like, I'm with Blake Snell. That's also so good because of what happened that season. Yeah.
Ultimately, in the end, this is the ultimate irony.
Yeah.
Is that cash did him in.
Oh!
Kevin Cash pulls him. He was so concerned with Cash, and Cash got revenge by pulling him in Game 6 of the World Series.
When he was dealing. That's one of the... I'm like upset at how smart that is. I'm like upset about that. Also, can I just say really quickly, this has nothing to do with anything, but one of my best friends is on a road trip with her dad right now, and they called me from the car, and they were talking about her brother who is balding, but still has sort of like the mentality that he is long flow, and her dad called it, he was like, "You've got a psychic mullet." And he was like, it might not be there, but like, it's like psychically you have the mullet mentality. Like it was this psychic mullet. You see it in your mind. And that's one of the greatest things I'd ever heard of. I was like, I'm upset at how smart that is. And I just needed somebody to hear it. This guy was also lived on the same floor as Chris Berman in college, which I just think we got to get this.
Get this guy on the
This guy's
show.
amazing. We got to get this guy on the show.
Sorry,
Anyway.
Aaron Rodgers, you've been bumped. We're having.
Yeah, we got Clay Deutsch. Shout out Clay. Shout out Juge. Okay, my fourth. That's a great one. My fourth is a baseball one. Is Ian Kinsler versus the Rangers. Do you remember this one?
I don't remember this one.
I had forgotten about it. But so in 2012, in December, the Rangers deal Michael Young, who was one of Kinsler's best friends and a leader in the clubhouse. And the Rangers, in the 8 years that Kinsler ended up being there, had gone from nothing to pretty serious contenders. I believe they won a World Series. I might be butchering that. But so basically, they deal as best friend.
No, the Rangers never won the World Series, by the way. They won the pennant. And
they won the pennant.
They had a guy on third base. Like, it's a very it's never mind.
That's one of the things that they haven't won.
In fact, the Rangers have been the closest to winning a World Series. They were literally 90 feet away from winning a World Series, and they choked it away. And it's a very sore subject for Rangers fans. So the reason I'm bringing this up is
sorry to Rangers fans.
Yes, is to acknowledge
That's like
Rangers
the worst
fans.
thing
Yes, so you
Imagine
said
a Rangers
that they were
fan
like
listening to that. Right. Wow, sorry. That was a you guys just caught a stray, and I apologize.
Yeah.
They made it to the World Series.
Yeah.
Kinsler's there, whatever. So they deal as best friend. And then the front office wants him to move from second base to first base because they've got this new guy, Jurickson Profar, wild name. And Kinsler's like, no. And the quote, he says, I was a 17th round pick. There was zero coddling. I had to put myself on the prospect map. In other words, like, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So then Texas sends Kinsler to the Tigers for Prince Fielder. After all this time with the franchise, he was one of their best players for a long time. He had all these stats that I'm not going to list. And Kinsler says, this is where I love. He says, so John Daniels, who was the president or something, I'm kind of butchering this, but like you guys get where I'm going with it. Kinsler says, I hope they go 0-162. I got friends and I love my friends, but I hope they lose their ass. And then he goes, John Daniels is a sleazeball. And then he ends up winning a World Series with the Red Sox, so I love this guy. And that's why I like Ian Kinsler versus Ray, because he was basically like, you guys are just like screwing me over again and again, and then he's just like goes scorched earth, and he's like, I hope you lose every single game you play.
Is there an I don't know enough about the specifics. I'll trust your judgment.
Clearly,
on
I
this
barely do, but like you get where I'm going with it.
But in general, is there a level that someone can reach where their complaining gets so intense and they go so scorched earth that you reach a point where you're like, you're kind of in the wrong, but I love how passionate you are about this, so now I'm on your side.
Totally.
Is that possible for you?
And only in athletes, like when there's really like it doesn't matter what they're complaining about, like nothing, there's no harm, no foul really, except like their job or their money, and they just are so much like, you can all go to hell, that you're like, I'm here for it. Like, get the popcorn, I'm here for it. So that's why I love that he says John Daniels is a sleazeball.
I also love that he was trying to make a case for like why he shouldn't be traded, and he was actually making the case for why they shouldn't value him, which is like, listen guys, I was a 17th round pick, and they're like, yeah, we know, that's why we don't have to invest in it. Right, like, we got guys who are spending a lot of money on.
He's doing a Tom Brady. He's like,
I know. It just
I get, you're right.
Yeah. Number 4 on my list, this is from a few seasons ago. Eric Bledsoe was on the Phoenix Suns, and he fires off a tweet 3 games into the season after losing by 42 points to the Los Angeles Clippers. After so the Suns start 0-3. They have They have 2 losses. Of the 2 of those 3 losses were by 40 or more points, and they fire Earl Watson, who is the head coach, 3 games into the season. And when they fire Earl Watson, Eric Bledsoe fires off a tweet that reads, quote, I don't want to be here. That's all it says. I don't want to be here. He doesn't quote tweet a story about the Suns. He doesn't tag anybody. He just says, I don't want to be here. And naturally, as people do, they say this must be the man's an NBA player. What else could he possibly be tweeting about but the disaster that is the Phoenix Suns right now? 0-3. He wants out. He wants out of Phoenix. There's no secret here. Eric Bledsoe's story is that he was not commenting on the Suns starting 0-3 and firing their head coach. He was at a salon with his girlfriend, his wife, his fiance, I don't know, with a significant other woman. He was at a salon and he just fired off a tweet that said, "I don't want to be here." And this has my full support because as a man who has been dragged many places by a woman that I do not want to be, and I just have to sit there, at the mall, at the salon, at the what have yous and whatnots and whatchamacallits.
Yeah, and the thingamabobs.
And the thingamabobs. I empathize with this man. I think he was wrongfully accused. I think it was just a coincidence that the Suns were absolute garbage and that he actually kind of hinted at wanting to be traded anyway in other ways. And I think he was well within his rights to say, I don't want to be at the salon anymore. And I think he was wrongfully attacked for it. So there you go.
I don't have anything to add except that's one of the best things you've ever said on this podcast. I also just love Eric Bledsoe. Who'd he get in the fight with where the guy called him Drew Bledsoe? One of the Celtics. I can't remember who it was, but he was like, I'm not worried about Drew Bledsoe.
That's right. I got an Eric Bledsoe fight. I gotta flick that up. Go ahead. Sorry.
It was Terry Rozier.
Terry Rozier. That's right.
Yeah, he was like, okay, Drew Bledsoe. And Eric was like, well, that's a pretty good firm. My third is kind of controversial, and you'll see why when I say it, but it's Tom Brady versus the Pats. Because I think after last season, I have to side with Tom Brady because the Patriots first of all, he never really complained. But he was clearly still good enough to play. The Patriots kind of let the roster deteriorate around him. They didn't want to pick up his contract, and so he was like, okay. And then there have been some digs he said over the course of his time with Tampa where he was basically like, who knew football could be fun? And it's like, that's true. That's really true. So like, and then he won a Super Bowl, and it's like, I have zero legs to stand on, right? It's like, okay, so I'm on Tom Brady's side.
How did the Patriots do in the playoffs?
Mark,
I was just trying to remember.
Are you actually asking me? They didn't make him.
Oh, they didn't. That's right.
I thought you were being a dick. You were.
Was I?
I'm not falling for this again. You are not. Gullible is not written on the ceiling.
Tom Brady wins the Super Bowl and the Patriots do not make the playoffs. I think he wins the breakup no matter what happens from here.
Definitely.
So I think by virtue, like, although that is a little faulty logic, isn't it? That like, I don't know, just because does that mean you were right retroactively?
No, because here's the thing. What happened because of the people who were there. You can't say it was one person's fault or one person's doing that the Pats were that good for that long. What you can say is that Tom Brady then went to a team that had the pieces, and maybe he had such leadership skill at that time where he was just like re-energized. Like, you can't... Like, I'm not gonna do this. We'll save this for like a stupid NFL preview show. But do you know what I mean?
If you're the Patriots and Tom Brady, his contract has expired, and there's discussions about whether or not you move on, you were steadfast in your belief even back then that you do not let Tom Brady wear another uniform ever again. Right?
No.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. At the time, no. At the time,
you weren't.
No, at the time I was like, look. He looked really bad the last season.
Oh, no.
Like, I get it. Charlotte. We've got to rebuild at some point. But at the same time, I'm really sad. But, like, I didn't really know how to feel. And I was like, okay. And then this happened. And I was like, I and the Patriots are absolute morons. And so I'm like, okay, Tom, you win. And it was, like, the ultimate. I'm someone who believes, like, if someone comes at me on Twitter, I usually don't respond. Because I think that the most powerful way to give them the middle finger is just to like keep succeeding and pretend that you never saw what they said. It's like bullies on a schoolyard, and I think that's what Tom did. I think he was like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm gonna be pretty nice about this, but then I'm gonna win the Super Bowl.
That's fair enough. Number 3 on my list, I'll make this one quick, is John McEnroe when he yelled at the chair umpire in 1981 at Wimbledon when he yelled, "You cannot be serious," which has become like the thing. I actually knew this about John. Did I say John McIntyre or John McEnroe?
No, you said John McEnroe. You said McEnroe. That Moderna's kicking in.
The Moderna's kicking in. It really is.
We'll run through this rest of this list real quick.
I said John McEnroe, and I really thought I said Oh my God, it's.
Wow.
All right, so he yells, "You cannot be serious." We all know this. I was going to say, Charlotte, before I knew John McEnroe was great at tennis, I knew him as the tennis guy who yelled a lot and complained a lot. Like that was my. I obviously wasn't alive in 1981 when he did this, so like my memory of John McEnroe was like when he started popping up on TV and criticizing other people, and then like you start to hear stories about how he was a hothead and all that. I didn't know he was actually great at tennis. I just thought he was just like the Dennis Rodman, who actually was, I guess, great as well. But bad example. Dennis Rodman's in the Hall of Fame.
Oh God, we gotta get through this.
But anyway, John McEnroe yelling, "You cannot be serious." There's a narrative around this, I guess, or like if you don't pay, like I always thought that he was just like just yelled, complained. This man wrote 2 autobiographies, Charlotte, where the titles of the books reference this incident. The first one was titled "You Cannot Be Serious." It was also titled, like they basically like re-released it and just changed the title to Serious.
Stop it, are you kidding
And then he wrote another autobiography like 20 years later, 15 years later, something like that. That he titled "But Seriously." So like this man has made this incident his entire life to where you think that he's like laughing about it and saying like I was in the wrong. But if you go watch the actual shot in question, there is the reason he's losing his mind is because even in 1981 grainy ass footage that you can barely see anything, the ball hits the line and like the chalk explodes. Like you can see it in grainy footage that it explodes, and they call the ball out. McEnroe's like, it clearly hit the lot, like the chalk, like everyone in the crowd's like waving chalk out of their face because there's so much chalk in the air, and he loses his mind. So he has my support for that. All this time before I would put together this list, I thought John McEnroe was. I mean, he still like whines, and there's been so many other incidents of him whining where he was in the wrong. So it's not to say he doesn't have a temper or whatever, but like. All this time, this one famous incident with John McEnroe, I thought he was just being like a little wuss and a crybaby. And come to find out, he was absolutely right, and I would have lost my mind too. And by the way, speaking of like winning and shoving it in everyone's face and saying I was right all along, he won. He won that tournament. He won that match in straight sets, and then he goes on to win the 1981 Wimbledon title. So suck it, chair umpire, wherever you are.
To see it. That's such a good one. Also, John McEnroe recently narrated that Netflix show, Mindy Kaling's Netflix show, Never Have I Ever.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a good show, and it's hilarious that John McEnroe narrates it. And there's like a reason that he does. The plot comes around.
All right.
But I recommend it. Okay, my number 2 is Scottie Pippen versus Jerry Krause.
Yep.
I was like, this is one of the things that makes me most mad when I think about in sports. He was signed to the worst contract ever. And then Jerry Krause kept being like, I think we're going to trade you. And then he'd be like, psych, we're going to keep you. And then Scottie Pippen would be like, I'm putting up insane stats for you. And then Phil Jackson was like, but you know who's going to take the final shot? And then Scottie was like, ugh. And it was this whole thing. And I was totally on Scottie's side. And that's my 1 minute encapsulation of the Bulls dynasty.
I was totally on Scottie's side. I think that's fair. I think I remember watching the last day. I forget all the specifics, but I remember thinking like Scottie was stupid. Not stupid, but like his not Scottie. I mean, he like has agents. He has agents do this. He just kind of does whatever his agents tell him. I remember thinking like that was not a smart move. Like you kind of put yourself in this position, so I don't feel that bad. But then also.
But then they could have fixed it.
You could have fixed it. Like just because you can doesn't mean you should. You know, like just because I don't know. Just because Jerry Krause is like, gotcha, I got you under this contract. It's like, or you could, not do that and
right. Like, what about keeping your players happy?
Faith. Yeah, like what about that part of it?
Little
all,
Aaron
Jerry?
Rodgers shades here.
Yes,
I don't know.
A little bit. That's a good one. I like that one. I'm gonna stick with basketball for my number 2. It is the Allen Iverson practice rant.
Yeah.
When from 2001, 2002 season, when everyone knows it, where he says practice like 25 times or something in like a 2-minute span. We talking about practice. The story was basically Larry Brown. So in 2001, the Sixers win the East. They go to the finals. They beat the Lakers in Game 1. Then the Lakers win the next 4. But the famous picture of Allen Iverson stepping over to Ron Lue was from that final. Iverson was balling out. He wins MVP that year. Great run for the Sixers. The following season, they kind of suck, and there's turmoil and strife and whatever words the SARS will spit out. Between Larry Brown and Allen Iverson, and he says that he's not giving it his all in practice. So this comes to a head where he's doing a press conference, and Allen Iverson is in front of the media, and someone asks him like, Larry says you're not giving it all in practice, and Allen, in my mind, rightfully loses his mind because. What is lost? There are two things that are lost in this rant, Charlotte. Number one, Allen Iverson won the MVP in 2001. The following season, which is the season in question where he had to defend himself for his practice habits, he averaged more points, more rebounds, more assists, and more steals than he did the season he won the MVP. His stats had gone up. He had become a better player statistically the following season. So it's not like his production had dipped, which is why he was like, who gives a shit about what I'm doing in practice? I'm balling out in the games.
That's like playoffs?
And then I didn't know this, but he one of his friends had been murdered recently, and this is true. I know this feels like I swear to God, this is true. He had a friend that was murdered, and apparently like the murder trial had started like a few days before that press conference that he did. And so like he was like in a state of just like, he was in a state where like he did not want to deal with the bullshit.
Right. He was like, don't test me now.
And then a reporter asked him, was like, hey, Allen, do you think part of the problem with the team is you? And he's like, I'm averaging 32 points and like, and what you're doing in practice. And so that's why it's number 2, because I think the whole it's become a meme. It's become like, it is funny. And I will still like, cite it every so often. It's like it was a very funny rant. I'm not saying like we shouldn't laugh or like enjoy the rant for what it was,
but it's also very real.
But it's very real, and it was like I'm definitely on his side that like it is kind of bullshit to be like, hey man, you're not practicing, because like who cares? Who cares if you practice at all? If he literally does not even practice a second, he's still averaging 32 points a game.
Yeah, that's where you come up against like the garbage of like, well, this is how things should be done. It's like, well, what if it's working better a different way?
Yeah. Right.
Why, God forbid, we be better. Okay, my number 1 is Serena Williams versus Carlos Ramos. This was the 2018 U.S. Open where she got 3 violations. The first thing that happened was he was like, your coach was coaching you. Because she looked to the stands and her coach gave her a thumbs up, which to me, not coaching. Also, I think this is the stupidest rule in the world. Have you ever heard of a sport where your coach isn't allowed to coach you? Are you kidding me? That's like if Belichick's on the sideline, the refs are like, offensive penalty, coaching, Belichick. Like what?
I do love that when you think of coaches who would cheat, you think of Bill Belichick. That was great that came to mind immediately.
God damn it! No, it's just because that's my team.
Where your mind goes.
You're twisting my words.
That is ridiculous. Why?
Like that in and of itself, I think is so stupid. But first of all, I also believe her. I don't think she was being coached. So then, she gets upset about it, and then she gets. She tells the ref, she's like, I wasn't coaching. And then basically it boils down to, he then gives her violations for abuse of her racket because she got upset and like hit her racket. And then for abuse of a ref because she said, you were a liar. You will never be on a court of mine as long as you live. When are you going to give me an apology? Say you're sorry. Okay. And then she goes, you stole a point from me. And I loved it because watching this, you're like, yeah, this guy is clearly being vindictive. And he said later, he was like, I thought it was time to send her a message. And you're like, what? In what world? Like, and she, afterwards, she was like, look, I'm sorry, but like men have been way worse. Like, look at Djokovic, look at, like
John McEnroe.
Look at John McEnroe. Like, look at Kyrgios. Like, these guys all do this all the time. And like, they don't get 3 code like, it was clearly garbage. But it's also funny because I watched this in a bar. It was one of my good friend's birthdays, and his sister was there with me, and we were watching this live, and we were like livid on Serena's behalf, and he was like, I don't know, she's being kind of a baby about it, and we both like jumped down his throat. We were like, you don't understand what it's like to be a woman. Like,
have you ever thought that Serena Williams' complaints have been misplaced, or she's been in the
I
wrong?
don't think I've watched enough of her matches to know. Like, I'm sure there's been a time where I'd be like, that's probably not.
Okay.
But this was one that felt...
I'm just trying to understand, like, how big of a fan girl you are. You know, like, how biased of a source is this? Do you have the ability to be like, Serena, you're wrong on this one? Do you think you...
I think so, yeah.
Okay, all right. That's
yeah,
fair.
I think so. I think so, because it was like she played Naomi Osaka, who I also love. And when Naomi ended up winning, I wasn't like, she won because Serena got flustered. Like, I think she would have won anyway.
Yeah.
And, you know, she won again when they faced off this year. So in that regard, like, I'm not an apologist, you know, but I do think that this was one example where it was just like, he escalated things. So, like, the job of a ref isn't to, like, become a part of the game the way that he did.
Right. Yeah. In general, refs should not, like, yeah.
You don't want to be the story if you're the umpire or the ref.
That's a tough spot to be in, because I understand, like, you want to have control over the game, because, like, in your mind, you're like, this game is I am in charge of controlling this environment and, like, calming everyone down and whatever. So I can't let someone upstage me. I can't let a player, you know, have control over me, because then now they're in control. And so you want to, but at the same time, you're absolutely right. When, like, the ref inserts themselves into the, and
the
it's
fact
like, this
that
is my
it
time to
kicked
shine.
off over, like, a coach giving a thumbs up, that to me is a little bit
that's
like,
ridiculous.
if there were a bigger issue that started it, I'd be like, okay, everybody kind of lost their cool. But the fact that he called her on something that I think is so stupid and innocent in the first place.
I think the Serena quote was a little aggressive. The one you read where it was like,
I just loved
what'd you say?
it.
I'll kill your family? Was that it? Is that what he said?
Said I kill Babe Ruth's right. Babe Ruth's right. No, because I think that I would have, maybe I just really identify with this, because, like, there have been times where people have insinuated that I have, you know, been dishonest in some way when I know that I haven't. I have just, like, absolutely lost my mind.
Yeah.
So I think that that's why I'm like, yes, I get this, and I'm on your side.
You'll never work this again. Like, what you say, you'll never work my matches. You'll never
be on a court of mine as long as you live.
Yeah.
Which probably is true.
Those insults, I don't know how much power are behind them. I mean, Serena carries a lot of power, I imagine, but being told you're never going to work anything.
But it was only hers. He's still, he can ref whatever else.
I'm saying that's like a very effective insult.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
like that work. Like, if, I don't know. So I could go to some small town in Nebraska, and if, like, a guy pulled up and was like, you'll never work in this town, kid, or something, I'd be like, what? Never?
You know, you'd be like, oh my God, that's like, any ultimatum is like really scary.
and the guy has no power and, like, couldn't do anything about it anyway, but I believe him. Just, like, hearing those words would freak me out. So good on her. All right, I'm glad you support it.
Thanks.
My number one is Steve Johnson, aka Stevie Johnson, aka Steven Johnson. There's a lot of iterations. I believe he's going by Steve at the time. Wide receiver for the Buffalo Bills in 2010. They're playing in week 10, maybe ish.
Okay.
I guess it'd be week 10.
Week Moderna, maybe.
They are playing the Pittsburgh Steelers. The game is in overtime. Ryan Fitzpatrick throws a perfect pass to Steve Johnson in the end zone. It hits him in the chest and the hands at the same time. He drops the ball. If he catches the ball, per NFL rules, that would be a win, an automatic win, because it is overtime and you've scored a touchdown. He drops the ball. The Steelers then get the ball back and they march down and score a touchdown or kick a field goal and win the game. So Steve Johnson goes to Twitter and tweets the following in all caps: Charlotte, I praise you 24/7 with 1,000 exclamation points. And this is how you do me with 1,000 exclamation points. You expect me to learn from this? How? I'll never forget this ever. Thanks though. So Steve Johnson was blaming God for dropping the touchdown pass, and he has my full support, because I do think, like, he makes a strong argument that, like, he is going to church, he's praising God, he is praying before these games.
He is walking the walk.
We talk about God-given talent with all these athletes all the time, and God gave him a lot of talent, enough talent to get to the NFL, but not enough talent to catch that pass. And that is a mind effing, if you will. If I was Steve Johnson, I'd be like, I was blessed with so much talent, and yet not enough talent. This is so weird. What have you done to me? I'll never forget this ever.
It's also, it wasn't like he was saying it as an excuse. He wasn't like saying, well, you know, God made me drop the ball, so what can you do? He was like, God screwed me over. Like he's as upset about it as the fans are. He's like, but it's this guy's fault. The big man upstairs had a game plan and I wasn't favorable for us, but like, what can you do? Anytime someone blames God, it's really hard to argue with them because like, where do you start?
Yeah, exactly. Like the burden of proof falls on you to prove that God didn't.
Right.
And
that's impossible.
I don't. Yeah. So I guess good on you, Steve Johnson. Like everyone's it's so good to get it. Like everyone's yelling at Steve Johnson. I just picture like a mob yelling at Steve Johnson, and then he just like turns his back to the mob and slowly backs up, and then now he's like in them, and then they're all just yelling at nobody.
Right. And he's like, see,
he's like, yo, drop the ball. Why did you drop it? And then he just keeps backing up, and then he disappears, and then no one ever remembers. So.
And then everyone's just yelling at the air, and here we are, kind of like we do on this podcast.
I am gonna go lay down.
Go lay down, Mark. Thank you for your service. You've been a real trooper. Oh man! All right, guys, we'll see you next week. Mark's literally lying down. Bye.
Hey pals, thanks for watching the People's Sports Podcast YouTube channel. For more of mine and Mark's very weird rabbit holes, stick around, watch more. You can subscribe, smash that subscribe button. You know you want to. We're going to give you all the weird stuff we possibly can.